It's been a little while now since I've done furniture transformations on my channel, so I thought it was a perfect time to bring them back. Hey everyone, my name is Yami. I am your Latina next door. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I love sharing high-end home decor and DIYs on a budget. If you enjoy videos like that, please make sure to give this video a thumbs up and become part of the familia by subscribing. As you see, I no longer have my secretary behind me. And that's because I was going to share the transformation for that piece in this video. However, that secretary finds itself in a very unfortunate situation, and I'll share exactly what's wrong with her at the end of the video. However, I still have 2 furniture flips for you all to enjoy. So for my first furniture flip, I'm going to be using this little table that I bought at my local Goodwill. This table only cost me $3.93. Now I've had it for a little while, I'm going to admit, and it was finally time to put into place my vision for this little table. Now the first thing I wanted to do was change the color, and I knew that I wanted it to be a little bit more rustic, so I decided to go with a satin black that I already had on hand left over from a previous project. Now, if you guys are wondering what this little tent is, it is a spray shelter. I've had this for several years now, and I love using it for small spray painting projects. I'm doing this right on my front porch, and I don't want to get any of that spray paint anywhere. And it's perfect for blocking any overspray on items like this. So I'll go ahead and make sure to link it in the description box below. I gave this a total of 2 coats, and since it was actually kind of cold while I was out doing this, I made sure to let it dry completely before applying both coats. And then when I was done with the second coat, I made sure to leave it to dry longer without touching it so that it wouldn't have that tacky feeling when I would be working with it later. I wanted a rustic look for the top of the table, and we had some extra pieces of wood left over from previous projects in the garage, so we went ahead and put them to good use. Now, since the wood pieces weren't going to be exactly the size of the table, I decided to go ahead and use 2 larger ones on the ends and then a smaller wood piece in the center. That way there was not much cutting involved, only the middle piece had to be adjusted to be made a little bit smaller for the space that we had left over. Then it was time for sanding, and I used my rotary sander for this. I want the pieces to look rustic, but I also want them to be nice and smooth because this is a table that's actually going to go into my son's room and act as a little nightstand for his bed. So I didn't want to have any splinters or any rough edges or anything. So I made sure to sand it down very well. I sanded all 4 edges as well as the top and the bottom. And I also softened the corners a little bit so that they were a little bit smoother and not so sharp, so that it would give them that old palette wood look instead of just a piece of wood from the hardware store. So after I finished sanding, my husband took our mini Craig jig and drilled several holes on the bottom of each of the boards. Since they were all individual boards, we wanted them to act as one solid piece. This would give us the ability to drill them into each other and create a nice strong surface. Once the piece was fastened together, I made sure that everything fit nice and smoothly, and then it was time to stain it. I used some stain that was left over, the same color as our floors, and I gave everything a nice coat, both on the top edges and the underneath part. Once the stain was completely dry, I came in with some clear wax and I used Debbie's Design Diaries clear wax. I love the smooth finish that this wax gives, so that's why I went ahead and used this. I let it cure for 24 hours and then it was time to add it on to the table. I made sure to line up the boards exactly where I wanted them on the table and then I flipped it over. This small table at one point had some kind of surface over the detail that you see in the center, so there were already 4 holes on all the corners that I could drill a screw through. So I pre-drilled some holes and then I had some screws that I already had on hand that I use in order to fasten the wood board onto the table. For my next furniture makeover, we are going to be making over this little side table that you see right here. It was a Facebook Marketplace ad. They did not want it anymore and they were giving it away for free, so I went ahead and picked it up. As you can see, it had quite a bit of water damage, but it still had good bones. The first thing I wanted to do was sand down all of the raised areas inside of the tray surface that you saw that had water damage. I wanted to make sure I can get it as smooth as possible. I then started painting the bottom of the piece and I used home decor chalk paint in French linen. I started off by taping off the areas that I did not want painted. This included the little strap in the center that held the table legs together from going all the way down, as well as the 2 bolts that held the pieces of wood together. Because I wanted a smooth satiny finish, I did use a smooth flat brush for this. Now while these table legs look pretty simple to paint, they were actually not. They were a little difficult because there were so many corners and nooks and sides to each one of these boards that I had to cover. And I was also doing long, smooth strokes so that I can get the paint nice and flat for that smooth finish that I really wanted. In the end, I ended up giving this table 3 full coats of paint. So I made sure to catch up on some Netflix while I was doing this. Before I painted the top piece, I wanted to protect the corner metal pieces that it had. I thought it was such a nice detail, so I took some painter's tape and tried to do my best to cover them completely. I wanted this piece to be two-tone, so I decided to paint the top tray a nice neutral white, and for this I used my home decor chalk paint in white Adirondack. I painted the exterior walls as well as the interior walls. I used the same flat brush for this application as well, and I gave everything 3 coats. I did leave the inside bottom of the tray without any paint. Since this piece is probably going to experience a little bit of wear and tear because not only is it a side table, it's also a tray, I figured I'd go ahead and distress the top in the areas that it would naturally become distressed. Now, if you don't like the distressed look, you can definitely leave something like this as is, just fine without sanding it down. However, since I'm going for a more cottage farmhouse feel in my home, I think that touch would go well with the rest of my pieces of furniture. Now, once the legs of the table were dry and I had finished sanding down the tray portion, I added some of Debbie's Design Diaries clear wax in order to seal both pieces. Then finally, for the inside of the tray, I decided to use some more of my grass cloth contact paper. I've used it already on 2 previous DIYs and I'm getting to use it on a 3rd. This roll is lasting me quite a bit. It comes with a lot, so I'm actually really happy that I purchased this and I have been able to see what kind of uses I can get out of it. So I basically just measured the inside of the tray area and I cut my piece accordingly. I like to cut my contact paper as tight as possible. Then I start off at one end and pull the underneath portion slowly as I work my way down to the other end. That's how I seem to get a very nice smooth finish with no bubbles every time. And here is how it turned out.
So that is it for this video. Please make sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments below which one of these was your favorite. I know they are 2 completely different styles. However, you can get an idea on how to flip really small, insignificant pieces like this that you might come across. Now, as for my secretary, my plans for this was to brighten it up and make it a beautiful white color. I was reached out to a company that wanted me to try their paint products that was specific for furniture. And I was happy to check out their paints, test it on my furniture, and actually paint the entire piece with their products. I had also seen a lot of furniture transformations using their paint. So I was really excited because the paint looked really high quality. Now this paint is supposed to be a 1-step paint. No priming, no sanding. I'm supposed to just clean it with a product and then paint it on. Now when starting this, my biggest fear was bleed through because the piece was actually very dark. However, I was assured that it would not bleed through and that the paint would be enough. This was not the case for my piece. And right now, this is what my piece looks like. Unfortunately, there is really severe bleed through coming in through the paint. And I didn't want to do anything with it until I actually spoke to the company and let them know my concerns. So I'm still waiting back to hear from the company to see what they can do in order to help me fix this situation. I'm hoping to share an update with you all very soon regarding the secretary, and I am going to trust that it will all work out in the end and I can fix this. So that is what's going on in my neck of the woods. Thank you for joining me again this week, and I will see you guys next week with more home decor and DIYs. Until then, adios.